Well, everybody, I got to say, it's another one of those wonderful, fascinating moments where Dan and Agnes get together. Of course, Agnes Fivarelli, for those of you that for some reason have been living under a rock for the last 5 years. One of the greatest out there. Got some great new courses, too, by the way. We can talk about those towards the end. But Agnes, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good, Dan. Good to see you twice in 1 week.
I know. It's been quite a village. Yeah. Been busy. And we did, basically two things last weekend because we were helping out that mutual friend. So
yes, that's true. I've seen you 3 times. I forgot. Yeah, 3 times in 1 week.
I have gotten to spend some time together lately. It's been now, we've got a couple topics. One was a question I had from one of my viewers, and it kind of intrigued both of us, but we'll be honest right up front, not 100% sure where we're going to go with this. And then you had a potential that we might fold into. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the one that the viewer had asked me is kind of our thoughts on either the difference or similarities. I'm not sure where we're going, but between commitment and attachment. I was like, that's like a really fascinating kind of question. I mean, I don't know. What are your first just initial thoughts, I guess, right off the bat when you think commitment and attachment?
That's a really, really clever question. Well, I think because of the emails that I receive and just the comments that get made within conversations, what seems to come up again and again is, I want a commitment. And I hear that a lot when people are looking for external security. So commitment in itself, I think, is a really beautiful thing, but it needs to be, I think, from 2 people that have got good self-love and 2 people that go into the commitment with giving rather than I need the commitment so I can feel secure. And I think women are the worst offenders with this. And I think that when you're going in with that, and I will use the word attachment, when you're already going into wanting a commitment and you're already attached and you're trying to get more attached and you're trying to get a commitment to feel more secure, I think you got your ladder up the wrong wall. I think,
love your phrases.
Yeah.
Well, so this reminds me kind of a theory I've been playing with lately, kind of between the concepts of love from the healthier standpoint, and I guess kind of more of this attachment-y kind of love. But what it seems like to me is it's almost like when the person is an object, when it's a thing, or when it's meant to accomplish something within me that maybe is missing, or I'm trying to reach a certain status, or I'm trying to get to a level of something, or I just don't want to be lonely, or I feel like when it's coming from that object standpoint, that a lot of that attachment type, needy type stuff starts to come into play. Right now, all of a sudden, we've got this odd expectation that's not really based on anything other than this objectification I've done to you, right? So you now have to fulfill that regardless if you know it or not. And then I set up this weird like attachment to you on that level. And then I think I also set up a weird imbalance. And I also kind of separate. So that's been kind of how I've been tying it in a few different places. But it's that, you know how like when we create too much importance on the manifestation, it separates us from it. I kind of feel like when we're going after something we're objectifying, it's sort of similar. Am I crazy? Or I mean,
no, I don't. And I think it's when you do objectify it, you see it like this oasis in the desert. If I can just get to that oasis, then I will be. Yeah,
then all will be right.
And you and I both know the answer isn't over there. It's never been over there. It's the over there becomes over here when you change your getting persona.
It's the difference between knowing that you have it and thinking you're creating it. I just did a show on this. I haven't published it yet, but I just recorded it today, in fact.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a fresh feeling, but it is that concept. And it's like, it's a different mindset. It's a different way of looking at the information. But I think it is that, I mean, all this stuff ties in. And I think that's kind of, at least to me, that was kind of what hit me when I think of commitment versus attachment. I think attachment in that very negative sense, that sense of, there's a lot of viewers that are out there that are, again, probably have objectified or whatever, like any one of these things that we just talked about kind of falls into that. And I think when we're coming at it from that level, it's not necessarily a healthy relationship. I would say to each his own. You can manifest whatever you'd like.
Yeah.
But if you're under the impression you're manifesting a healthy relationship, but you've got this very objective or attachment needy kind of focus on it, well, now you're not going in the same direction as what your desire is. And in that case, I would say it's probably not healthy.
Yeah.
I think for most of the people that are probably watching this that are truly trying to find love, I think it's probably one of the more common questions we get. The attachment side of it seems to be a relationship killer.
Yep. And you don't see it in that honeymoon phase. It pops up. Right. Yeah. Everything's always rosy and great for 3 to 6 months. Sometimes I do see it extend to a year. But when you get past that, the cracks appear and you start seeing, you know, your neediness come up, your jealousy come up, your I need more, I'm not getting enough. You see all that stuff come up within you. And then the relationship then starts to echo it. And then it's, you know, you fall on your sword, so to speak. The relationship falls over.
I did a video with a buddy. This is probably like 2 years ago at this point. It's on my channel somewhere. We called it Socks on the Floor.
Yeah.
It had to do with exactly that. Once the honeymoon phase is over, right? It's like, why are your socks are here on the floor again? You know, it's like, what the, you know, or the toothpaste cap is another ridiculous thing. But man, we'll get fired up over the stupidest things sometimes. Yeah. And you're right. So it's like, yeah, you've got this object and we painted them in this beautiful Sistine Chapel kind of way, and then we get in there and you're in that honeymoon phase and you're like, oh, I'm so in love.
Yeah, I know.
3-6 months later, you're like, really, your underwear again over here? Like, what's dude? It's like, put away from the hamper. What's going on, man?
Exactly.
It's amazing where the love just disappears.
But that's where you really get to see if you're willing to do the work on dissolving stuff in you and getting your eyes off blaming them. Because I think that's where we fall down, is we get to that point where you start to see the cracks and then you make it all about them. And you've lost the whole real lesson, which is it's about me and what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?
Yes. Like the world is showing us what we are doing. So it's like, if something seems out of whack, they're like, no, it's his fault. He's just not willing to accept. He's not willing to do this. And it's like, whoa, first off, you attracted him. Second off, right? That's like a lot of this is us pushed out, really. I mean, there's so many parts of this that I completely agree with going theory, but it's that projection, that screen. It's that you're getting back what you're putting out, your crazy insecurities inside of you, all this stuff. And that's what you're seeing, you know, and that's what you're experiencing. So it's that thing where if it's funky, what you're experiencing, there's an imbalance inside yourself. And it's like trying to explain to people too. And this, I feel like I'm taking over this whole thing, but
no, keep going.
Yeah. You explain to people that, like, if you had it right now, if they were your girlfriend or boyfriend right now, you know, instead of a month from now, and you didn't do the changes that are going to happen between now and a month from now, you wouldn't last. You guys would break up like that. And it's not that it's just, you're not ready yet. And so much of it's that internal fixing of things. Everyone wants to slap a Band-Aid on the problem. And it's like, no, you got to solve the problem.
Yes.
Put some ointment on there and actually really, truly heal what it is that keeps festering.
Yeah. And there's a guy called Gary Zukav. He talks about spiritual partnerships. You know Zukav?
Yeah.
We'll put some links to his YouTubes down below, because he talks about spiritual partnerships and this very issue. And we'll also put your socks.
Oh, the socks. Yeah, I'll link that socks video. Yeah, it's a buddy of mine, Jeff, and it's funny. He'll love the fact that we're plugging this from eons ago. It wasn't recorded real well, but it is what it is. Same room. It's just on my couch, so it's kind of fun.
Great. Well, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I like a bit of weirdness.
Oh, he is one of my weirder buddies. There's no question about it.
Good.
He's actually a really talented musician. He's real nice guy, smart guy. But
cool. Excellent.
So the attachment side, just to kind of, I think, round out that part of this conversation anyway.
Yeah.
Attachment, I think, is when we're coming at it from that standpoint, like you said, when we're coming at that from what are they fulfilling for me, What's missing in me is really what the other way to ask that same question. Like, if there's some sort of odd imbalance, and that's kind of what I mean by an object, is they fulfill something. You're not 100% complete without them.
Yeah.
Then there's sort of a kind of that objective thing kind of happening at that point, or it's more of an attachment, or now it's, I can't leave them because they're helping pay the bills, or there's so many scenarios where this kind of situation plagues us. So again, you can manifest that, and that's great, but then you're the person that's stuck in a relationship, living in an apartment with a person you don't like, wondering how I got here. So again, sometimes it's better to look at it a little deeper, which gets us into the other side of this. So what's the word commitment? One, it's just a loaded word anyways. A lot of people are phobic of it, right? Commitment phobe or whatever, right? They got all sorts of fun little nicknames. But some people, some guys especially, I think we're notorious for this. We want to have the milk, but we don't want the cow. that's such a bad way to look at it. But why would you get the cow if you can have the milk for free? Is the phrase. But when you say it the way I just say it, it certainly ruins all the romanticism in that comment. That's for sure.
Well, I remember listening to Abraham Hicks a lot, and she used to say, and probably still says, it's like when she was talking about, and this is in male-female relationships, and it also comes up in same-sex relationships too, because, we often take one role or another. So there's one person who is seeking freedom and the other person is seeking commitment, and they end up together. And you've got to, make peace with what you want and know you can still have that within a relationship. You can have a commitment and you can have freedom if you really respect the other person and really allow them to be who they are and really allow them to do what they need to do. And you, rather than being on opposite sides of the team, as in you're against each other, he won't give me this, she won't give me that, and you're fighting each other for the things that you want, you can be on the same side and allow and be giving and gracious about what the other person wants and needs. And I can tell you, when you learn that and you can do that and you honor the other person's needs for different things, your relationship grows and gets better, because there is we're on the same side, we're on the same team. I understand what you need. You do what you need to do today. I need to go and do this, and then we'll get back together at the end of the day or the next week or whatever, and we'll have some time together. But it's really respecting and being gracious that the other person doesn't have the same needs, wants, and desires that you do at exactly the same time all the time.
I do think it's super important when we realize that each of us in this relationship, right, whether man, woman, man, woman, doesn't really matter.
Yep.
But when we realize that we're two people traveling in life, learning things and growing and developing as our own beings, and then when we come together and can actually grow and evolve together, for that to happen, there has to be an understanding that both sides have needs and wants, and both sides need to understand the other side if this is going to work. It's not we've got to compromise. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Loss right off the bat. It's like, I love you, and I want to hear what's going on. Why are you upset? Or what did I say? How was that upset? Oh my God. Yeah, I didn't even see it that way, but you're right. Like, it's that understanding that both of us are going to be there for each other, and we're going to also have needs from each other. And it's just kind of that balance that happens. And I think when we can acknowledge that, I think a relationship's got a much stronger chance. And to your point, I think for a commitment to really work out from the standpoint of formal, long-term, marriage, or hey, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever.
Exactly.
That commitment, I think it's important to understand that in a healthy relationship. That's a commitment.
And I actually don't think the commitment or the relationships the hard part. It's the really being honest with what you've got going on within yourself and making an earnest attempt to continue to sweep your side of the street and stop doing that.
Another crazy phrase. Love it. Sweep your side of the street. That's right. Lean your ladder up against the right thing. Like, Agnes, I love you. I don't know if I've said that enough yet, but I love you.
That's
no, funny. It's funny so I wrote down my little thing. I'd show you, but what's the fun in that? you brought up a point. I don't know. This might even be kind of where this starts to spin. And you know how our side salads become the main dish.
Yeah. Actually, Dan.
Yes.
I have a friend, the one that I do my Neville stuff with. She said to me the other day, she said, she was trying to say to me the side salad. She said the side saddle, and we ended up laughing our heads off for about 15, 20 minutes because it just went off on another tangent.
She went off on a total tangent.
That became side the main saddle course. Now.
I love it, the side saddle. That's freaking awesome. But no, the thing you brought up, and I think you were just even speaking to it. So you were even alluding back to my question. So this obviously has to be talked about.
Yeah.
But you said coming to terms with or being at peace with your decisions. And I thought about it. I'm like, wow, how many of us do you think, and we've talked beliefs. I think that's one angle, but I think this is a better way to look at it. Coming at it from how many people out there have contradicting thoughts? I want to be in a relationship, but I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to have to deal with. I don't want to have to tell somebody else. Right? But I want to be in a relationship, but I don't want to have these time constraints. I don't have to worry about someone else's, but I want to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Like, dude, your thoughts are totally contradicting each other. It just made me realize how often we can be misaligned in our own thoughts, thinking, no, I really do want that. But when we look at some of the places where we're like, well, no, that's why I don't want to be with him right now. Right. Or whatever. So it's just, I was curious what your thoughts were on that whole concept, I guess.
Contradicting thoughts. Yeah. I think sometimes you've got contradicting thoughts, but they're not actually real. Like someone said to me recently, I don't want to be in a relationship because that means I'm going to have to do everything for the other person. And I said, like what? And it was a woman. She said, oh, well, cook and clean. And I said, who said you got to do all that?
Right. There's no rules.
Like that was already a preconceived idea from past relationships.
And that's my exact example.
It was like, well,
example of exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also, if I'm in a relationship, then I'm not free. Well, free to do what? Free to do what you want when you want. Well, you can still do what you want when you want, but you just communicate, look, I need to go and do this. And I also want to spend time with you. So you can talk about it and you work those things out. So you have time together and time to do what you both need to do. It's not,
or I'm afraid I'll lose
not
my
that hard.
No, it's really not.
It's actually not. It's really not. You just communicate, and sometimes you don't communicate properly. And you make, you forget to say something, or you forget to say the whole thing about, I've got to go do that, and then I got to go do that. And
sometimes they just don't enter your mind.
Yeah,
and they should have. You're like, no, yes. I totally should have, but I didn't. I don't know why. I was just very into what I was doing, and
exactly. You get lost in what you're doing, and you forget.
It's like, I am so sorry.
Exactly. You just.
if it's like every day, that's a different story. Like we need to start setting reminders or finding another way, but.
Exactly. Just communicate better. You do. You can't just run around and not communicate. I mean, the upside is you've got someone that actually is interested in what you're doing, and someone who would like to know what you're doing, and they love hearing about your day and what's going on tomorrow or yesterday or whatever. So you do need to check in and do that on a daily basis. The downside of when you don't have to do that is it's like, well, you've got in your head, no one cares about me and what I'm doing. So I'm free to do everything, but no one cares.
Right. Yeah. So it's like a catch-22, right? Yeah, I want to tell. Oh, I don't have anyone to tell.
I don't have anyone to tell. So it just depends on what's more important to you. And like you said, neither's right or wrong. It's just preferences and things you prefer to do, and just different ways around the wheel.
And I think without a doubt, some around the wheel. That's number 3. That's awesome. I'm going to start writing these down. Like Anya says, birds before land, or wherever you got that from. That's another one I always loved.
That was a weird one. Yeah, that was
a good one. I love that one though. It's very true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of people, it's just good to kind of, for those that are struggling, maybe trying to get that creation going or wherever, trying to get to that place where you and your specific person are together. Just make sure you don't have some sort of funky contradicting thoughts in there too, right? Because you can have your cake and eat it too. There's a lot of people that say you can't, but believe it or not, you can. I've bought cakes before and eaten it. I even put a candle in it one time and blew it out myself. I lit it myself. I did the whole thing myself, and it still counted. So.
It still counts.
It can happen. That's all I'm saying. I'm just, a lot of people are like, that's impossible, Dan. And I'm like, no, I did it. I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah, it is possible. And it is possible to have calm, peaceful relationships where you're not talking about the relationship all the time, where there's no dramas or every third week, that you just literally enjoy each other, you cook, you enjoy going for a walk, watching a movie, you do very everyday ordinary things, and there's just a peace in the house or a peace in the, wherever you are together. It doesn't have to be, I need to talk about the relationship and you're squeezing a chicken around the neck all the time.
So you bring up another wonderful point. How
Chickens.
many? Well, yes, right? Because they're always running about. I mean, you go out there to Hawaii and they're just wild everywhere. Crazy chickens. It's not very big. You wouldn't want to eat them per se, but they're all Cornish game hens, really. No, so with people and they're having expectations of how relationships are, like maybe their mom and dad always fought. You brought up such a beautiful point, and there's this understanding in their lives that that's what a relationship is. You have your little dramas, you have your up and downs, you're always talking about it, and that's almost what every relationship they end up in becomes, and that's what they're used to. But they keep wondering, why does my relationship keep ending, or why am I having a hard time attracting guys that don't want to argue with me, and or women or whichever. But you bring up that point where I think some of us really do have to look at what type of relationship are we really looking for. Have we even drafted that out in our minds? Like, what is, we've talked about commitment and attachment. Like, have we really thought about what a good, healthy relationship is for me or you, or
exactly.
I think that's another valid question for who's trying to manifest relationship. What are you trying to manifest, or do you even know?
Exactly. I think one of the best things you can have is to have a sense of peace between you, and a sense of fun between you, and a sense of you're on the same side and you're enjoying just living a quiet life, as in mentally quiet, emotionally quiet. You don't have huge disturbances all the time. I think that is one of the most wonderful things, but you have to cultivate that within yourself to be able to have that in the relationship. And that sounds easy, and it's not. It takes, time. It takes time to understand that you're creating dramas. It takes time to understand that you don't have self-love. It takes time to understand that you're blaming other people, you're projecting stuff out, and you don't think it's got anything to do with you. So it's like you learn all these levels over time, and you can have a great relationship firstly with yourself, and then it gets echoed in a relationship with another person.
And to your point right there, I think that's one of the key ways that we can sort of self-measure, if you will, is when you are alone or when you're single, you find that you are frequently, you're always involved in drama. Drama is always happening around you, because odds are, if that's the case in your personal life, now, happenstance, maybe it's coincidence that it always seems to be happening around you wherever you're at. Like the Charlie Brown character Pigpen always had a dust cloud around him. He's not dirty. No, it's just the dust that follows him. It's not, but I think it's when you realize that this is kind of what my life is normally like, then that's quite possibly the relationship you're going to expect or be involved with, because you're used to having drama. And I would say, kind of to your point, as I started to evolve, I think it had more to do with my spiritual path and just the peace and tranquility, but happiness in life, and all those things kind of lead to the same general sense of bliss, right? But when we started to find that the lack of desire to have all these spikes, the super high, super low, I want to, experience that lottery win every day, right? Well, then you've got to have some sort of crash to balance that to a degree. You can't spike in your endorphins up to the point where your heart explodes out of your chest. I mean, it's just not how it works. There's a balance in life. And I think, it's just when you get happy with the more calm kind of life, your relationships tend to not be as crazy and up and down and spiky.
And you don't get so tired, because you get those huge highs or lows, and then you crash emotionally, and then you feel exhausted, and then you got to still try and get up and go to work, and you got to try. Yeah, all that's extremely taxing on the mind and the body.
Yeah, I don't think we're used to doing that. And I think some of that's, with this new world today, with the way marketing's done and kind of on your phones and in your face. And it's always like, it needs something to grab your attention away from the moment. So everything's meant to just, be like really huge.
Yeah.
It's just funny because it's like we just had an election out here in the States, and it's just funny how things have to get ramped up now so much greater than the last time. Like, like you were talking about, like that spike, and then you're exhausted, and then you got to go to work the next day. But then what you find is like, I want a bigger spike tomorrow, because it's like a heroin addict, right? Like,
yes,
I need that rush again. And I'm constantly chasing that ruch.
Yep.
And you're living for the rush now. Now you're not living for the relationship. Now it's not even right. And we just totally lose sight of our focus, our path, what we're here, we think to do or try to experience, or what our job is, or if we're parents, or whatever your role is as a person. It's tough when you kind of get off on these weird emotional roller coasters.
I know. Yeah. And it takes its toll on your health, on your concentration at work. All sorts of areas get affected by that one thing. So it looks like, and you and I have talked about it many times, people trying to get an ex back, or a specific person, or they don't have a relationship and they want one. It's like, if you can put more energy into things like meditation, affirmations, and then just calming yourself down, the external world will shift accordingly to what you are doing. And I remember years ago, I went to see Abraham Hicks years ago when she was still doing CD videos. Inside one of them, there was this little leaflet that was part of the CD. And it said, if you could spend time doing 15 minutes of breathing every single day, literally just deep breathing in and out solidly for 15 minutes, she said everything in your life would start to level out and smooth out. And I remember thinking, wow, why? Like, I just, at that time, I could not wrap my head around that. But it makes sense. You're surrendering, you're letting go when you're breathing, you're relaxing, you're letting go of the madness, you're trying to let go of the anxiety, any other negative emotion you got going on. You regroup. As you calm down, again, the external starts to fall into place. And I remember thinking that was such an easy thing to miss, because obviously you watch the CD, but that one little leaflet, I will never forget it. And I
was going to say, to your point, and I absolutely, completely agree with that. And even recently experienced where I went a few days and I hadn't really gotten my meditation, because I do a daily one too, like a lot of people. And it's just one to kind of level set for me. And I hadn't really gotten to it. And I noticed such a huge difference. Yes. To me, it's kind of like thinking of a little sonograph or whatever. And you got that cosmic radiation background that just happens throughout our days. When you meditate, it level sets, it like flatlines that out.
Yep.
And then when you go and start your day again, all right, well, you start to get some more of that background noise, but it's decent. If you don't meditate and then you get to day 2, well, that starts to get noisier. Your pattern starts to get more out of flux, right? And then you go one more day. Now it's a lot spikier.
Yeah.
And it's when you get in there and meditate and just focus on your breathing and nothing else, you actually kind of, you create that flat line again. And it really does work like that. It just kind of, it brings you back down to a really good grounded state. And then things that just moments ago were out of control, worrying, now all of a sudden you're looking at them through calmer eyes. Maybe solutions to some of your problems suddenly pop up. You're like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about it from that angle. And now all of a sudden, right? So it is just so much more helpful when we can calm down some of that drama that just everywhere.
Definitely.
People are freaking out.
Definitely.
Crazy stuff.
And as much as I know people love listening to success stories, or, where we read out a success story or interview a success story, all that stuff, not to take away from that, because I think that's inspiring. But if you could do more of the calming yourself down through meditation, affirmations, and anything that just makes you relax more, listening to beautiful music or laying in the park, looking up at the clouds or the sun for a bit, anything that increases your level of relaxation and your that has a very concentrated effect on what you get on the outside, because you're not getting vibrational matches of madness over here where I am, and then the madness comes in from the outside. The more you practice the peace and the calm, the more those things get reflected back to you. Your life becomes calm in all areas. It starts to go like that, and then it starts to level out.
Right. And I think that's what kind of comes to with, I mean, again, not to badmouth the success stories either in any way, shape, or form, because they can be very, very inspiring.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they sometimes get brought into a certain subject. And again, our videos aren't hours and hours long, right? They're usually generally very short, and they're usually very subject focused. That's just kind of how they work, and that's how attention spans work. But it does seem like sometimes success stories get rooted in a certain micro focus. But really, when you look at what that person did to be successful, there was a lot more to it than just that technique they used, or just the way they did X, Y, or Z. A lot of times, like your point, they were meditating on a regular basis. Maybe they didn't realize how big a difference it made, but it does, right? Like there's other practices that were happening. They're lacking of questioning their beliefs, maybe, or the fact that this is very aligned with what they've always seen their lives being. Like, there's just so many things come into play to how our manifestations work that I think success stories do sometimes simplify that. And you're right. I think, like, I mean, with Hicks, I totally agree with what she's saying. The power of spending that time every day on your breath is so much more helpful in what we're trying to do. No matter what it is that you're trying to do, unless you like being stressed all the time, in which case don't meditate. That's going to mess that up. That will screw that up for sure. But if you're like the rest of us that enjoy being a little calmer most of the time, oh my God, it's just such an amazing difference when you do that. So,
it is.
Again, I don't want to ruin it for those that are into stress. That's awesome.
Yes. Keep going.
It's like Kramer from Friends, right? They're
Kramer.
Right, his hair was like, right? Yeah, just always coming in. I love it. That was such a great, stressy character.
Oh, he was.
And he was so like chill and relaxed, but he was always so strung out too.
Yeah.
So that's how most of us are, probably, by the way.
That's probably why that got watched so much, because he just showed us, pockets of anxiety.
Pockets of us, pockets of anxiety for sure. I don't know where we're at time-wise. Did you want to try to cover yours? Or did we...
I saw something that people have mentioned. I've been reading this book on my channel, like bits out of this book. And there's something that Neville says a lot that people often bring up.
Ooh, okay.
And it's about signs follow. They do not precede. Remember that?
Amen. Yeah, I love it. And people forget that too. And they get so focused on the signs that they start manifesting signs. Anyway, God, love it.
And this was hard for me to understand, because I was thinking, hang on a minute, you get a sign and then something happens. That's how I used to think. And it's like, well, no. You did the
work, and then the signs started, and then you kept doing the work.
You had
kept happening, but we do. We back at a step, and we forget that the sign is not preceding the thing happening. The sign is actually following the
change in you.
Yeah, no. I love this quote, but please, this is for those that don't fully grasp this. This is probably one of the true key aspects of manifesting.
So he says, proof that you are will follow the consciousness that you are. It will not precede it. You are an internal dreamer dreaming non-eternal dreams. Your dream takes form as you assume the feeling of reality. So that's in typical Neville language. But basically in 2018 language, you have to have an internal shift. So if you are wanting something, you stop thinking of it, you start thinking from it, if you understand Neville. And if you understand that you've got to focus on solutions to get solutions, and let go of focusing on problems, which is, more modern day English. So if you are able to make that shift internally, slowly over time, you shift your thoughts, your beliefs, you do it with affirmations, imagining before you go to sleep, or whatever technique you want to use, then you will start to see that the sign is the secondary thing, but you did the first thing, which was you shifted your state, you shifted your feeling, you shifted your belief, you shifted your thought, you shifted what you were focused on, and then you got an external result, the sign which starts to show you that things are in motion and things are moving. But it's like you go, often people go, oh, I just saw a sign, that means something's coming. It's like, no, it's like seeing the tip of the iceberg and then the whole bigger bit's down below. The whole bigger bit was you started to shift out of the lack of that, whatever it is that was wanted, and you started to move into feeling more relaxed, having more of an open hand, letting go, surrendering, doing all the things that you know can help you, and then something manifested.
Because it's really tied into, I think we were talking about this even earlier, but the energetics that come along with feeling that thing that you are connecting with, creating, coming from. There's a lot of ways we can look at it. And I think some are probably healthier than others, but again, it's not so much the word as it is the concept of like how you're seeing it. But it is, you're right. It's that feeling is the shift, getting yourself into that feeling, into where you can stay there, you can be there, because that is your new reality. And then that once you're in that new reality, then it starts to coalesce into this form that you're trying to create, if you will. But it happens as an afterthought almost, right? It's and that's where the sign comes from as well. I agree. It's very confusing, and
it is confusing. That's why I thought of bringing it up.
Show. We could do a whole hour on that for sure.
Yeah, I know it is confusing because it kind of Neville sees it, explains it back to front to what people think it is, and
well, and he does it in his wonderful Neville-esque way.
It's Nevilleite way, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, what language is that? Is it Sumerian? What are you saying?
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
I know, and yet there's so many good nuggets. And there's another thing I wanted to mention too, because people keep asking about free will.
Yeah, free willy too. You got to remember that.
There's lots of different answers to the whole free will question, but as I understand it today, yes, technically we do have free will because we can do what we want when we want, but you are influenced by two things: the past and the tentacles you still have emotionally from the past to the present. The second thing is the assumptions that you make today. The assumption will trump whatever. It's the trump card. Whatever you assume, whatever you put more belief, thought, attach feeling to, that's going to trump free will. So even if you're thinking about something negative, if you've got a hostility towards someone and you can't stop thinking about it and you're putting a lot of energy into it, you're going to create some, bang argument. You're going to manifest something because you've put all that hostility into the energy waves. You've projected that out.
Yeah, and that's how I see it. Like you'll end up cutting someone off, but barely. But they'll get really angry at you, right? They'll get in front of you and pump their brakes, and you're like, "What? I had my blinker on. I'm sorry, man." But that again, you're right. You're putting ripples out into the universe. Those ripples coming right back to you. Yeah.
So yes, I would say technically free will exists, but we're so impacted and affected by the past, what's happened to us since childhood. And we're so impacted by what we think and feel and believe in the present about a whole bunch of different subjects. So your free will kind of gets bumped out of the ring until you understand a lot of these concepts, that you can redirect your mind. You can change the course of things through being conscious of what you think and working on putting things in the subconscious through repetition, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what I think. To me, it sounds like you're heavily kind of into that realm of how many of us are operating in life unconsciously. How many of our decisions are actually happening from an unconscious place? How many of our reactions, instead of being proactive, we're reacting.
We're reactive, for sure.
React to what you created. So we created this, right? And then I react to it. Well, dang, now I'm asking for it again tomorrow. Right? I'm going to get more of it because I keep reacting to it. So I think a lot of us, I think you're right, aren't noticing how involved we are with what we experience. But that being said,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us tend to start to lose sight of what we're putting out there and how we're being energetically, and how lacking of consciousness we are of what we're doing. We're programmed to not question things, and I think so many of us really need to stop and really look, what am I doing? How am I behaving? How am I acting? Why do I keep why do I keep getting angry? Why do I need to push my buttons like that? Why does one person keep getting under my skin? There's something to that. Like it's showing itself for a reason. Again, us pushed out, like there's places where I absolutely love this. Like if there's someone that's always getting under your skin, like, you know, like pay attention. There's something there. Something to learn. When you figure it out and it goes away inside of you, it goes away there too. You know, all of a sudden they're going to be nice to you. Maybe all of a sudden they get a new job, whatever the case is. But
exactly. Like in the case of Neville's mental diets, that story about the girl with her boss, and she thought he was, you know, a very unpleasant, critical, judgmental, unappreciative man. So she kept arguing with him in her mind on the way to work and on the way home, and then he kept acting it out. So she changed her mental conversation about him, and then within a short period, the whole relationship changed. So you do, I just find it interesting how this stuff looks like it's invisible, but it's all connected.
We always want to point out from away from ourselves, but as the adage goes, right, when you point, you have three fingers. Like, it's hard to do. You got these three fingers pointing back. That's the adage, right? When I point, there's three pointing back at me. So many of us don't truly realize how much of what we're constantly pointing, or that's not right, that's not how it should be, you're not behaving. It's like, what are you doing though? How often are you doing the same thing? Well, that's different. No, it's exactly the point.
The same.
Why it keeps happening to you? Because it's in you. Keep putting it out there. Let go of it. Stop.
Let go of it.
With your boss. Stop, you know, like maybe realize that maybe he can be an okay guy. It reminds me of it's kind of funny. When I was in college and I was taking English, and I hate English. I was really good with math and science and all that crap, but English and history, I hated it still, you know? So 1A was all writing and all this crud. And I got this teacher. I was doing horribly. I was getting like, when, you know, on the number of points and the points I was getting, I'm like, you know, D range for sure. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. So I have a meeting with the guy, and I think I met with him once or twice in his office hours, right? And I understood finally what he was asking for. I finally understood what he was asking of us as a class and of writing, and what his expectation was of how we were utilizing what he's teaching us, right? So I'm like, I understand it now. Started following his stuff. And again, I hated this guy. He was the hardest teacher I ever had. Started following it. I ended up with an A in the class. I got an A in the class.
Wow.
I like how he taught me to write so well. I took him for 1B. So I hated this guy. But when I finally understood what was really up, I found out he was awesome, and I took him for a whole nother semester, and he's made more difference in my writing than any other person ever in the history of my school.
Wow.
It's kind of funny how sometimes when we shift our beliefs, when we shift the way we see it, it's amazing what can shift inside of us. You know? It's still the same.
That's a good example. That relationship with your teacher, that's a really good example.
He was the teacher that people didn't like taking either. Oddly, he was one of the people that was one of the graders of like the SAT, the written part of that. He was actually at the time was one of the people. I don't even think they have that test anymore, but he was one of the people that used to grade part of it. So he totally knew what they were looking for. It was pretty cool because he taught us like the basics. Here's what writing's supposed to be. Follow these rules. You'll be fine. So another great word from him too, and this is totally side salad, but he would he would put M-A. If you used a word that was kind of crappy, like wasn't a very good word or a very strong word, he put M-A, and what it stood for was merely adequate. That's just like, wow, like that's a creative way to say you suck, dude.
You suck. Yeah, that's
adequate.
That's very
awesome.
Lovely, subtle way of saying it.
I went back to take 1B with this guy. That's what I'm saying. And my merely adequateness went back to take another semester of this guy. So it was pretty
fantastic. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, those people that shape your lives. People that shape your lives.
Yeah, and then it's cool, like, you know, where you and I are kind of at in our worlds right now. Like, we've got these, after making lots of mistakes in our past, we finally at this kind of really cool place, and it becomes a new foundation from which to build a whole new kind of life or stratosphere or whatever. And I think a lot of people get so stuck on the fact that they're stuck where they're at, and it's like, no, you can always recreate where you're at. I mean, maybe there's some things you can't erase from your life, or mistakes we've made in the past, but you can always kind of recreate, start a new foundation, begin a new home, a new house of cards, if you're into that.
The house of cards. Yep.
So this was a great show. I think we covered
very interesting.
Many useful topics. And again, why limit you and I to one topic when we could possibly?
Exactly. We like all the little side trails.
It is so much fun for you and I to have a slightly different, just to be able to talk just openly about things too.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Because literally, just for those of you that don't know this, but Agnes and I I said commitment or attachment. And like before we started recording, it was like, I have nothing. Let's give it a go. Let's see where this show takes us. And that's, I think we covered some really, really good ground today.
I like that with our sessions, Dan, is we don't plan like we used to, because we like the just
spontaneity.
Like, because you uncover things that you don't uncover if you've got like a set thing of what you're going to do. And I think letting go of that more and more. And I'll interview people and they say, oh, can you send me the questions beforehand? And I think, I don't have any questions. I literally just, I don't want to be restricted by a whole list of questions. I like to be spontaneous. I like to be inspired to just go off on a tangent. And that's what makes the conversations more interesting, I think.
Well, and I think you would agree, like a lot of the comments that people, I think we talk about stuff that's good. So I think that period, first and foremost. But I think a lot of the people appreciate the banter and the way we go back and forth and the way we play off each other.
Yeah.
And, the fact that we do have a cool energy together.
We do. We do.
It's fun for you and I to get together and talk. And we chat a little before we actually start recording, just, because you and I enjoy talking to each other. And
we do.
And then we record and we enjoy talking to each other long enough for you guys get to enjoy it with us. And
exactly.
It's a fun time. It's
and it's developed over however long we've been doing it.
A year and a half into
at least a year. Yeah, it's been a year and a half since we've started. Yeah, no, it's good.
And it's been
all because you made fun of me.
I know. That's like whatever. Yeah, our whole meeting is actually funny. That's a story that's not ever really appropriate for YouTube completely, but it is very funny how you and I met. And you guys, Agnes and I are very aware of the story, but it is funny. And I didn't particularly like Agnes.
I know. And you know what? We'll tell that. That'll be a to be continued for the next one. We'll start off with that little story. Because it's great. I love it.
It is funny. And then how close we've become since. I know. Very funny. Very, very funny. Well, good, Agnes. I appreciate everything on that, obviously. And there's some people that have mentioned we might want to try to at some point maybe do this twice a month. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. We don't have to. But I'm just saying.
I like it. Well, I think it's always that thing of having conversations about what some of the viewers ask, and then it's also we can do a bit of Neville or a bit of, it doesn't have to be Neville based all the time. There's lots of other good teachers, and we can bring in other things. But I think
I love me some Neville, so it's always fun to and, I've got his complete reader, so whenever there's a time that we want to talk Neville, I think it's a blast to do that. Neville, like I was just saying in one of the videos I recorded today, I mean, Neville, I think is the best as far as how you really get the ball rolling. I always felt that. I think his minute-to-minute stuff during the day isn't necessarily as good as maybe Esther Hicks. I feel like that's where she's really strong, but I don't think she's really strong at creating the ball rolling. Like I think Neville is really, really good at that. Like, so I think it's when we put the two together, we start getting into a kind of a good daily practice or a good, but it's just
I agree.
And there's obviously Hay and all these other people. There's so many other great teachers out there too.
Yeah.
Even people doing YouTube stuff. So whatever. It's it all works out.
Exactly. Cool. It's a wrap right on the 1 hour.
We nailed it. Awesome, Agnes.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, we'll say goodbye to the viewers and then we can say goodbye by ourselves. Bye, everyone.
Bye, viewers.